Hello beautiful people, listen Dharma, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be checking this video from Mikhaila Peterson, and this is titled her reaction to Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, censorship, psychmate and general stupidity. That's the title. So this is in regards to her response to Candace Owens coming at Jordan Peterson, that's Mikhaila's father. So yeah, so today we're going to be checking this video to hear what she's got to say regarding what Candace said about Jordan Peterson. Let's go.
Hey guys, over the weekend I was scrolling around X and I was being spammed with Nazi content to an unnerving degree. Not that one post isn't bad enough, but I've pressed not interested on so many anti-Semitic posts, it's ridiculous. And I'm not defining Nazi content by the liberal definition of Nazi, but real Jew-hating spam on X. So it's been all over my feed. Not from people I follow, by the way, just random posts. It makes me think these accounts are being funded by Iran, honestly, but that's a topic for another time and I have no evidence of that. And it bothered me this weekend. I've been stressed because we're launching Peterson Academy and I've been working all the time and I don't know why I would go on X to let loose, but bad idea. It should bother any reasonable person. So I tweeted out one of these posts and said a few things. So first there was this one. And then when I started getting attacked online for the first post, which I thought was obviously anti-Semitic and anybody would think so, but like wham, thousands of negative comments, I tweeted out this, which I ended up deleting because it wasn't worded properly, honestly. So let me clarify. I shouldn't have used the word censor. I should have been more careful with that word because it's not exactly what I meant. It's hard to believe that if I'm not over the top clear in my communication randomly on X, it matters enough that it can go viral. That's still weird for me. Dad obviously has the same problem. Most of my tweets don't go viral. What I meant was if I don't follow Nazis on X, I don't want their posts all over my feed, and the algorithm shouldn't be pushing these posts. Not that they shouldn't have the freedom to post it. I meant censor as in don't artificially push their posts, not disallow users from posting whatever they want. Okay. So I should have said, I don't want Nazi posts pushed by the algorithm, not censor Nazis. There's a difference between freedom of speech and freedom of reach. So yes, that tweet didn't reflect my views as perfectly as it should have. I was honestly quite irritated by all the Nazis responding to my original post and not paying attention as much as I should have. Anyway, Nick Fuentes, I don't know because I don't care, a well-known anti-Semitic boy went after me along with his thousands of anti-Semitic followers because I said that people who use the hashtag filth or rats when referring to an entire nation of people should be censored. Like I said, this was after I got attacked for retweeting a medical doctor who had the original anti-Semitic post, retweeting it in a negative way. Again, I meant these people's content shouldn't be pushed by the algorithm. I shouldn't have said censored. And Nick Fuentes responds with, your dad called me a rat. And I would like to clarify, I think calling individuals rats or whatever is fine, particularly if they are rat-like. I think it's different when you're referring to an entire nation of people as rats that have been subject to, say, Hitler less than 100 years ago, when the Nazis of the 1930s also referred to those people as rats as a tactic to breed disgust. So yeah, I think referring to Jews as rats is completely different than referring to Nick Fuentes as a rat. And if you can't understand the differentiation, I can't help. Social media really allows views to propagate unnaturally. If some of these anti-Semitic tweets were spoken in an ordinary public setting, the individual would be being punched. But then these views grow and their followers go out into public thinking everyone agrees with that view. I don't think freedom of speech is the same thing as being pushed by an algorithm. I shouldn't have to go on TikTok to hide propaganda pushed by the Chinese government, and I don't want to go on X to hide Nazi posts from my feed. Nothing against Elon here. I think there are bots or fake accounts behind a lot of this, and possibly funding from Iran, and I know he's trying to get that under control. Next in these series of events, the scum of the internet pulled the classic high school girl trick of trying to tarnish someone's reputation by promulgating rumors, and pulled out a picture of Andrew Tate and I claiming that I slept with Andrew, which both of us have said multiple times isn't true and has nothing to do with anything I had said. Truly lovely things this weekend. Then yesterday, Candace Owens makes a video on my dad and my response on X.
So I'll ask the question that's on everybody's mind this week. What exactly is going on with Dr. Jordan Peterson?
She starts off with compliments and then attempts to try to tear him to shreds. She goes into how he's lost his audience and men don't trust him anymore.
He lost a huge following, and they felt that this response was not calm. It was not dictated by rationality or the logos, which Jordan Peterson loves to speak about.
None of this is remotely true. He just hit 8 million on YouTube. And then she goes on and blames it on drug addiction and his give 'em hell tweet last year. Again, employing the tactic high school girls use to tarnish someone's reputation that they don't like. Classic. So she starts off with, he's always been really nice to me.
I obviously have met and worked with him. He has always been extremely kind to me. So nothing that I'm going to say should be taken personally.
And segues nicely into laughing at an anaphylactic reaction to sodium metabisulfite.
Here is what he said. He said that it was due to the fact that he had consumed some apple cider. Take a listen.
But I didn't want to not do it because
apple cider. Like what was it doing?
Sulfites in it.
What was it doing to you?
Oh, it produced an overwhelming sense of impending doom. And I seriously mean overwhelming. Like there's no way I could have lived like that if that would have lasted for... See, Mikhaila knew by that point that it would probably only last a month. And I was like...
A month?
Yeah,
from
a month.
Cider?
Oh, I didn't sleep that month. I didn't sleep for 25 days. I didn't sleep at all. I didn't sleep at all for 25 days.
How is that possible? That
I'll tell you how it's possible. You lay in bed, frozen in something approximating terror for 8 hours, and then you get up.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, not
and
good.
this is from cider.
To clarify this clip, he says sulfites. It wasn't the cider. I know that's complicated. Now my guess is Dad did sleep a bit during that month, but not much and not well. I've been in that state.
Now this is Mikhaila's response, because I've checked the video where Candace Owens shredded Jordan Peterson, and honestly, I did not expect that, because don't just do that. If somebody was very kind to you, you don't do that. Remember the internet. Well, this is a digital age, and that's and seeing that, like, I don't know what to say. But again, hearing from Mikhaila from her own point of view, knowing that we live in the digital age, the internet age, like what people always say, sometimes when you watch what you post online, because some people don't know the difference. And it's a good thing that she is clarifying this or clarifying those, so people learn and people hear from her side or her point of view. And this is the exact same thing I said when I checked the Candace Owens video. I said, rather than her calling him out or saying this about Jordan Peterson, if he was very kind to you, he was so kind to you, if he was kind to you, you owe him the decency of reaching out, talking to him privately over, or if you want to hold a debate, just like what she said, she's open to having a debate. If you want to hold a debate, fine, you can, and ask him these questions yourself rather than drawing to conclusion or coming up with all of this. And it's a good thing that that his daughter is clarifying this, and this is what lots of people love, the father-daughter, father-child relationship, where your child would be proud of you as a parent, and the parent be proud of their child. And this is something noble. She is clarifying this and saying this from her stance, from her point of view. And I've said it before, sometimes when you post something or talk about something, some people who are reading it, or some of the receivers, will not understand your point of view and will not see things the way you do. And I've always said it, there are always two sides to a story. And regardless of how it is, we're not going to see things the way you do. And it's common and it's what we know. But thank God she's clarifying this. Let's hear what she's got to say. Let's continue.
Not well. I've been in that state of anaphylaxis, and it certainly doesn't feel like you sleep, and you certainly don't sleep well.
Yes, in between.
We now know what happened was called a biphasic anaphylactic reaction, which means it repeats and lasts longer, and those can take a long time to recover from. To clarify, like we've clarified so many times, Dad and I both were on psych meds for over 10 years, prescribed to treat major depressive disorder. Major depressive disorder is not a joke. It ruins your life. It was worse than my arthritis. When we changed our diet to a paleo diet, we stopped the antidepressants in fall 2016 for me and winter 2016 for my dad. We dealt with antidepressant withdrawal and food sensitivities during that period of time and ultimately ended up on the ketogenic all-meat diet I call the Lion Diet in 2017. She also scoffs at that.
He was struggling with an addiction to benzos prescribed to him after a violent reaction to a strict meat and greens diet. Okay.
Even though the ketogenic diet is now being used to treat psych disorders by a doctor at Harvard and is a cutting-edge treatment for metabolic disorders. I know it's complicated. So we had stopped needing the antidepressants because of dietary intervention, but then we're stuck in this horrible situation of psych med withdrawal, which can take about 2 years to recover from after the medication is stopped. I got off of OxyContin after a year when I was 17, when I had my hip and ankle replaced, and it was rough, but it was a breeze compared to getting off of 10 years of psych meds. So that brings us to December 2017. To top off this psych med withdrawal, combined with sudden online stress and his university job at risk and the food sensitivity mess we were in, my dad and I are both extremely allergic to the preservative sodium metabisulfite, amongst other random things like peppermint. I'm also allergic to soy and nuts and everything out there, but really allergic to those things. Sodium metabisulfite is a preservative that's commonly used in foods and medications and is also used in alcoholic apple cider. So while Dad was already off SSRIs and had been for a year dealing with antidepressant withdrawal with diet, while dealing with being canceled, he got hit with a biphasic anaphylactic reaction and we didn't know what it was. The cider with sodium metabisulfite was mixed into a meat stew we were eating, and we both had an allergic reaction to it. Dad's was way more severe. He ate way more than me. I had a bite or two, got nauseous, and didn't eat anymore. We didn't know this was before the meat diet. We didn't know we were allergic to sodium metabisulfite at the time. It took a long time to figure out what happened because who's even heard of sodium metabisulfite? Even doctors don't all know what this is when I bring it up. Hey, don't give me sodium metabisulfite. And they're like, what is that? I guessed it was sodium metabisulfite at the time, but we didn't have that confirmed for months afterwards. Now we know what happened. Like I said, it's called a biphasic anaphylactic reaction, and it can be somewhat delayed. It's an extended anaphylactic state and can be caused by peanuts or whatever people are allergic to, and recovery takes a while. If you go on Reddit, type in anaphylaxis, you can see people's response to that. It takes weeks to recover from. So you don't just eat something and blow up like a pufferfish like you think you would in an anaphylactic reaction, which is why we didn't know what was going on. You eat something and in the next 12 hours it worsens and worsens, and then you can continue to worsen, or it can happen again a few days after that. The doctors didn't know either because the reaction was a bit delayed and it lasted about a month. We'd had these reactions before to a lesser degree because we're allergic to a lot of things in a really crazy way. We didn't know what they were called at the time, like I said, or how to treat it other than avoiding triggering one. All that was obvious when he was in that anaphylactic state was he was pale, couldn't stand up without blacking out, had trouble walking, had a puffy face and lips, difficulty inhaling, said he couldn't breathe a lot, and had an overwhelming sense of doom, which is a classic symptom of anaphylaxis because it can kill you. So the doom just kind of goes along with it. It's a symptom though, plus severe insomnia.
So we're saying that there was a food reaction, and then in response to the food reaction, they put you on anxiety medicine, and then the dosage was wrong, and he apparently had what appears to me to be a drug overdose.
Candace said this was classic drug behavior, but that's not possible because he wasn't on drugs and hadn't been on SSRIs in a year. He was prescribed benzodiazepines for anxiety and insomnia while in that anaphylactic state, when realistically he should have been given a steroid for about 2 weeks to stop the anaphylactic reaction and calm down his immune system. What we didn't know at the time.
Let me say this, and I'm glad that Mikhaila is addressing this and she's responding to this, because this was exactly what I said. Lots of people react to things differently. Just because somebody's reaction does not fit the exact same description of what you know for some reaction to be, doesn't mean when the person comes to share their experience or talk about theirs, they're telling a lie. And also, regardless of how it is, when people share details or information about themselves or things about their experience, they will not divulge every information. They share the bits or the things that they want to share, and it's based on a need to know basis. So the fact that people outrightly called or are saying that Dr. Jordan Peterson was telling a lie and people don't trust him no more because he shared something or he said something that does not fit the description of what your experience is. I'm not, I like, make it make sense. It doesn't make sense, honestly. And based on what she's shared there, I wish people would listen to this and understand that people react to things differently. And people's experience is not always the same. Even sometimes there are some symptoms or some things that would happen. Some doctors don't even know how this came about or the reaction to this or this, because some things are still in the process. And lots of people really need to learn about this. And I always say no one two person's experience is the same. So no, the fact that people thought Dr. Jordan Peterson told a lie because it did not fit what they know does not even make sense to me. Honestly, it doesn't. Thank you, Mikhaila, for sharing this. Let's go on.
To stop the anaphylactic reaction and calm down his immune system. What we didn't know at the time was adding in benzodiazepines to someone already experiencing psych med withdrawal, which, like I said, can last a couple of years after stopping psych meds, is insanely dangerous. Dr. David Healy discusses this at rxisk.org, rxisk.org, if you want to look into it. Adding in benzodiazepines when someone's in psych med withdrawal can result in akathisia. Being treated with multiple psych meds can cause akathisia, and some people just get akathisia from a random medication if they're super unlucky. Even certain antibiotics can cause it. It's severe and can be a deadly side effect. We didn't know any of that at the time because people don't know these things. After being treated for a biphasic anaphylactic reaction and having it misdiagnosed as anxiety, Dad ended up getting worsening and worsening akathisia over time. When Mom was diagnosed with deadly cancer, his doctor increased his benzodiazepine dose and the akathisia worsened dramatically. If this all sounds complicated, it's because it was, and it was a miracle we figured out what was going on in the first place. It took years to figure out. Doctors don't understand food sensitivities, autoimmunity, psych med withdrawal is only starting to get talked about. Using a ketogenic diet as a therapy for autoimmune and psychiatric issues is just beginning. And the fact that he was able to stay alive through all of that is a miracle. He was misdiagnosed and treated with various medications that made the akathisia worse for over 2 years in the US and Canada, once we figured out it was called akathisia. When my mom had cancer. So then my family had to deal with my mom having cancer in the hospital and my dad having akathisia so badly we thought he'd die. Hilarious, I know. Then Candace goes on to pull a bunch of mainstream media articles that she's happy to quote, even though she tells her audience not to trust the mainstream media.
This is a New York Post headline entitled, "He was suicidal and addicted to benzos."
To clarify again, my dad wasn't brought to Russia because he OD'd or was addicted in the derogatory sense of the word addicted. He was brought to Russia because all the North American doctors we went to, which a number of different hospitals, obviously we didn't just want to go to Russia. Nobody wants that, not really. Anyway, everywhere we went, they kept adding more and more medication to try and cover the akathisia, which ended up making the akathisia worse. And no hospital would remove the medication because they didn't understand akathisia was a side effect, not a symptom. I would not wish antidepressant and benzodiazepine withdrawal and akathisia on my worst enemy. It was like watching someone be tortured. You can Google or YouTube akathisia to see what it does to people. I don't want to put a clip in here because it's horrible. So no, it wasn't the cider like Dad says in the clip. It was a biphasic anaphylactic reaction to sodium metabisulfite that was misdiagnosed as anxiety and insomnia and treated with a benzodiazepine that caused akathisia, and then the akathisia resulted in years of misdiagnoses that almost killed my dad. Glad you think it's funny. And if anyone doesn't believe that, here's a very attractive picture of me after a CO2 laser, which is a skin laser smoothing treatment that really isn't that intense, in the middle of an anaphylactic reaction to peppermint flavoring in a caffeine pill. So I've been there with these biphasic anaphylactic reactions, and if I didn't know what they were, I would have taken anything to make it go away. So I do not fault my dad at all for going to a doctor after like 12 days of thinking he was going to die because he couldn't breathe very well and saying, give me something to make this stop, and taking the medication they prescribed him. If you feel like you're going to die for like 10 days, anybody would go to a doctor. The autoimmunity that runs in my family for whatever reason has made our bodies incredibly sensitive to food, the environment, chemicals. It's extremely annoying and frustrating. I spend a good portion of my time trying to figure out how to calm our immune systems down. But for now, the only thing that works is not exposing it to anything it reacts to, hence the all-meat diet. 1/5 of people in America are on psych meds. And the withdrawal dangers after long-term use are not talked about, and they really make people suffer, people who do not deserve it at all. And having some compassion is reasonable, not belittling people. And Candace, acting as if this is a story we made up to get people to believe my dad and take him seriously. Are you serious? Who on earth makes up a story as weird as this is to convince an audience of something? You think an all-meat diet and an allergy to random things like peppermint and sodium metabisulfite is the way we'd go about convincing people of trustworthiness? Then Candace rails on me for a while for saying X should censor Nazis. Again, that was my mistake. I should have said, please don't push scum to my feed, not censor. But got a little fired up after I got spammed with thousands and thousands of anti-Semitic comments, photos of Andrew Tate, pics of my dad with the giant nose, and comments about my divorce. So hopefully I've clarified my views on censorship. Then she brings up Dad's "Give 'em hell" tweet.
He wrote, "Give 'em hell, Netanyahu, enough is enough."
I don't know why this needs further clarification, but he wasn't calling for the genocide of civilians. He was referring to Hamas, the terrorist group. He probably could have gone into more detail too, like I shouldn't have used the word censor on X, if that's not exactly what I believed. There's a massive conspiracy theory going around right now that I think is extremely dangerous, that Jews are behind some evil agenda, and that's why they're unproportionally at the head of companies. And Candace plays right into that in her video too. I'm not sure how she doesn't know this, but the average IQ of the average Jew is a standard deviation above the average person. Now, IQ research is frowned upon because it's not fair, but that's what the data shows. So obviously the average Jew is going to be more successful, and that's going to show up as being at the top of companies. One standard deviation is a lot. Jewish people aren't just running the bad companies disproportionately either. They also run successful companies, the good companies, and have the most scientific achievements. It's really not that difficult to understand if you believe in IQ, and if you don't think IQ has anything to do with it, again, I can't help you. Read more. And people going, oh, well, now the anti-Semitism is different than it was in the 1930s and the thousands of years before that. Now the Nazis are the Jews because of what's happening in Gaza. Those people don't understand anti-Semitism. When the war broke out, I did an opposing views on Gaza and heard both sides. I'm not talking about Gaza. I'm talking about the rising anti-Semitism we're seeing everywhere, in universities, in random attacks in downtown Toronto. It isn't just about protesting a war anymore. It's about attacking Jewish people in other countries for being Jewish. It's insane. Protesting a war is one thing. Attacking Jews in other countries for being Jewish is another. Anti-Semitism is a resentful, stupid, poisonous ideology, and I'm not for it. So I wanted to pop in here real quick to address the X posts, clarify my position on censorship, and respond to Candace Owens' attack on my dad and I. And honestly, to tell people that I think the rising anti-Semitism everywhere is extremely dangerous and just a repeat of history that's been going on forever. I have plenty of Jewish friends that are experiencing anti-Semitism and are scared and being targeted, even though they have nothing to do with Gaza and are living in the US and Canada, and it's completely screwed up. And I'm embarrassed it's happening in 2024. So I hope that sheds some light on my view on censorship and clarifies anything that needed further clarification about my family's autoimmune problems that people seem extremely interested in. Hope everyone's well. I'll talk to you guys soon.
No matter what, if there's a bunch of people that believe something, I now want to know what it is that they believe. And of course, he pushed me on this, and he was talking about the earth curvature and science. And I said to him, listen, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. Actually, what I am somebody who has left the cult of science.
Thank you, Mikhaila, for sharing this. And I wish lots of people would understand this. Imagine what the family was going through, or the family went through, and people came online to make mockery of it and be like, okay, your experience was a lie, or what you shared was a lie, because they did not share the thing that was befitting for their narrative or befitting for good media headline. And this is the thing. I've said it before. People should not always equate people's experience to be a lie because it does not fit your experience. It doesn't work like that. That's why we have scientists, we have doctors, and sometimes some symptoms or some experiences or some things, doctors are noticing it for the first time. And if some people are experiencing some things, be passionate, because you don't even know what goes on behind the scenes or what they are dealing with or what they are experiencing. That is the more reason why if they come to share something based on their experience, don't equate it to be a lie. We should do better. But thank you, Mikhaila, for sharing this. I can't even imagine what the family was going through, and then to come see that people were attacked and saying, discrediting their experience. Like, make it make sense. I don't even understand how we got here. Of course, yeah, sometimes people, the rush of the moment, they post something on social media. Sometimes they don't mean to, but it's a good thing she came here to address it and talk about this. It's just that simple. And thank God she addressed this so people hear from her point of view. But let me know what you think about this. I'm sure tons of people have interesting things to share. I really love to share that. You can share the useful information I think might be really helpful. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and all of that stuff. And until next time, see you in the next video.